Hello everybody, welcome back to another video with Lim Reviews. Now in today's video, as you can see on the title, we're going to be talking a little bit about the Galaxy A73 5G. Now I've been using it for almost a week now and I have quite a fair bit of thoughts in my mind that I just want to share with you guys. So hopefully this video can actually help you out in your next purchase decision in case you are wondering of purchasing maybe something like the A33, 53, 52s or maybe even the A72 or A73 5G. Plenty of phones there. Alright, so today's video, like I said, is all about the A73. So before we talk about that, let's check out the price itself. Now here in Malaysia, we do have the A73 here at RM2099 and it's only one specification here. It comes with 8GB of RAM and 256GB of internal memory. Now I'm very lucky because today I actually have two different colors, the white as well as the green. Me personally, I like the green a lot, so this is something that I'm going to be focusing on a bit later as well. Alright, so now that we're done with the price, let's talk a little bit about the design of the A73. Now as you can see here, the A73 looks very similar to all the previous A series smartphones, even from last year. And yes, if you're wondering what's really different in terms of the A73 compared to the 53 or even the 33 for that matter, well, the A33 and 53 are actually 6.5-inch devices, but the A73 here, think of it as a larger size. It's 6.7 inches here, so it's slightly larger in terms of this form factor. It's very, very minor, but yes, you do notice that it's a little bit bigger. Now, in terms of the back panel and all that, it is exactly the same as the A33 and A53. We still have this plastic sort of back panel going on. It does give way a little bit when you press at the back here, but that's also something that we've seen on previous Samsung devices. Now, just like before, we also have this top left corner here that houses the camera sensors. We have a quad camera setup over here. And in terms of the frame itself, notice that the thickness is actually very similar to the other brothers as well. But in terms of the frame itself, this one is also in that chrome finish, similar to the one on the A53. Now, I did mention before that the one on the A33, the one that came in finished in matte, feels a little bit better. And I'm not sure why they always keep the matte for the lower range devices. But this chrome here, I guess, is something that you have to deal with. So that's that. Overall, I think the design-wise, it looks alright to me. Don't really hate it at all, but I do like this new green color, very, very nice. So I think this is something that you might want to check out if you are actually intending to get one of these A73s. Now, it's also worth mentioning that just like before as well, the A73 here is IP67 rated. That means you can submerge the entire phone into the water to take all kinds of cool shots, like you can do with your GoPro and all that. So that's also very nice here on the A73. Other than that, design-wise, yeah, nothing much to talk about. It just looks very similar to all the other A-series siblings. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about the display at the front because that's actually quite interesting. Now, display-wise, like I mentioned earlier on, you do have that 6.7-inch Super AMOLED display that is a 1080p panel. That means it's not like super sharp and all that. It's just adequate for day-to-day use. In terms of the maximum brightness, it goes all the way up to 800 nits, which again, is nothing too much to shout about. I noticed that when using the device outdoors, I did not find it particularly very bright, but it was definitely still sufficient enough for me to be able to see the content on the display. So no issues about that there. Refresh rate is 120 Hz, so everything is, of course, buttery smooth. And of course, if you are thinking on watching Netflix, a lot of movies and all that, it is White Vine L1 supported. That means you can watch all your Netflix in HD. Overall, I think it's just a great display here. In terms of the bezels, everything looks somewhat symmetrical. By somewhat, I mean that the top and the bottom is actually same, and the left and right is a different kind of thickness level. So overall, yeah, I think it's still a very good display. Definitely can enjoy a lot of movies and a lot of YouTube, which is what I'm doing on the A73 here very nicely on this Super AMOLED display. Now next, we're going to talk a little bit more about that processing power. So like you already know, we do have that Snapdragon 778, which we saw in the A52s from last year in the A73 right now. And in terms of the RAM, I did mention earlier on that it's 8GB of RAM, but Samsung actually allows us to extend that RAM up to 8GB, guys. I've always seen a lot of other devices that extends by 2GB, 3 or maybe even 5, but an 8 plus 8GB RAM combination on the A73 here is actually quite crazy. Now, I actually use a lot of applications on the phone itself, so I have tons of apps open at the background, and I found that this extended RAM actually does help with launching your other applications faster. So that's definitely very much appreciated, the 8 plus 8, and of course, the storage-wise, you get that 256GB. Now, just in terms of gaming, I want to talk a little bit about gaming first because I play a lot of Mobile Legends. I'm still not very pro yet, still very noob, but in terms of Mobile Legends, Legends. The good thing here was I noticed that the A73 here does support Mobile Legends in ultra frame rate. Now what this means is that I can actually play the game at up to 120 FPS. So it's actually very buttery smooth. The entire experience was very nice, and I actually found it very much more enjoyable to play the entire Mobile Legends game on that ultra frame rate. Definitely loving the 120 FPS, which I have actually not seen on most of the other phones that I've reviewed over the past couple of months. This is actually one of the first that I've been seeing these days that come with that ultra support. Very, very much a thumbs up there for that gaming experience. Now, in terms of the heat, I did notice that after playing for like 10 to 15 minutes, it already hit like 41 degrees Celsius. Now, that's not to say it's super hot and anything. It's still very manageable, and you don't really feel uncomfortable on the hand. But I noticed that most of the heat were coming from the, the top left corner over here. And yeah, it's because it's plastics and all that, so you don't really feel that heat very much. So overall, I think if you are looking for a gaming phone, the A73 here might just cut it for you. Otherwise, just in terms of day-to-day use, launching your applications, doing your social media and all that, everything runs very, very smoothly. Now, just for fun's sake, I did a very quick benchmark test between the Snapdragon 778 here as well as the Exynos 1280 from Samsung side by side. So just to give you an idea on how much difference the performance is from the A73 against the A53. This is just something for your reference. Alright, so now that we're done talking about the performance, let's talk a little bit about the cameras at the back, because we do have a pretty impressive quad camera setup. Now, this is being led by the 108 megapixel main sensor. You also have a 12 megapixel ultra wide and a 5+5 MP for your macro as well as your depth. Now, in terms of the images taken from the A73, we are seeing a lot of detail here, especially with the main sensor. It also comes with optical image stabilization. That means, it reduces the wobble and all that. But images itself just looks very, very detailed. The colors is not super saturated like the A53 and A33. I noticed it was a little bit dialed down in terms of the A73 here, so that's great. Night shots also turn out very well. Night shots has been excellent even on the A53. So on the A73 itself, it's an even better story. Now, in terms of the stabilization though, I noticed that it wasn't as stable as I expected it to be. Maybe this is because I've used other phones from maybe Vivo, and all that. They have the gimbal stabilization stuff. So I noticed that the OIS was just alright. It was stable, but not super buttery stable. So that's just something I want to point out in case you are taking videos that requires you to run here and there. But overall, I think just in terms of the cameras at the back is quite good. The ultra-wide 12 megapixel is also quite detailed. Definitely better than the majority of 8 megapixel ultra that we are seeing in the market today. So that's great. Overall, I think this is a very steady camera if you're just looking for something to take great shots, consistently great shots most of the time. Alright, so now let's talk a little bit about the other stuff. In terms of the speakers at the bottom, we do have that stereo speakers. They don't get very loud, they're alright. Definitely not to say that the best in the industry and all that. One thing I don't really like about the A73 here is, again, in terms of the haptics. Samsung is still using a very, very old, I'm not sure what haptic engine exactly, but it's just slow and tardy. Like whenever you get those vibration feedbacks, it's just not great. I just don't like the haptics on the Samsung A73. That's my biggest downside that I do not like. Otherwise, in terms of software-wise, it is launching with Android 12 out of the box. And the most important part here is that Samsung is committing to actually giving you 4 years of Android updates, guys. That's a lot. So 4 years of that and 5 years of security updates. So you're going to be able to use this phone for a very long time. Now, last but not least, I want to talk a little bit about the battery in the back. Now, here is a good and a bad story. So the good thing here is that we do have that 5000 mAh battery, which is very common these days. It lasts very well. It's very efficiently used, so you can definitely hit 1 day without any issues. And of course, if you use like 1.5 days, you might be able to stretch it if you do not use your phone that heavily. But the sad news here is in terms of the charging. Once again, the charging is a massive headache for me. I'm not sure, I think at this point, only certain chargers are supported to get that 25 watt fast charge. I have actually a Ugreen charger somewhere lying in my house. I think it is a 100 watt gun charger or something. It was about like 90 to 100 ringgit. So I plugged it in and it was taking more than an hour to charge from 0 to 100, for example. So it's very, very slow charging speeds. Again, I would say this is slow to me because I'm used to, things like at least 33 watts charging, 60 watts charging, 65 watts, whatnot. But this is just a little bit slow for my personal liking. So if I forgot to charge my phone at night and I want to go on the go right now, I can't really do that because the charging speed is just slow. Alright, so that's just my personal opinion, but yeah, let me know what you guys think of the Galaxy A73. Should you still purchase it over the A52s from last year or for the A53? My thoughts here is that if you are looking for a very solid mid-range device, one of the best mid-range devices today, you should definitely check out the A73. One thing you should also consider here is that 4-year commitment for the Android updates, which is very important because you know that your device will be updated in the years to come. That means you can definitely use your phone for a couple more years. However, if you want to save a couple of bucks, go for the A52s 5G. You might lose out a little bit more on those updates, but you are still getting a very good phone. At the end of the day, it really depends on your budget. If you can afford something like this, I would say just go ahead and get it. But if you have a very limited and tight budget, but you still want to experience something as good as the A73, just go for last year's A52s 5G. You can't really go wrong with that device. Now with that said, thank you all for watching till the end. I really appreciate all of you dropping by. Don't forget to drop a like and sub to the channel if you want to see more content like this, and I hope to see all of you guys in the next one. Stay safe everybody. Bye!